Late June, the summer is scorching. It was less than 8 o'clock in the morning, and it was already beautiful and cloudless. Tianhui City, Liuliwan Community, this is a mid-range community in the southern suburbs. Su Sheng embraced a black snakeskin pocket in his arms and walked towards the gate of the community from the outside. The snakeskin pocket trembled slightly, and there seemed to be some living thing in it. Su Sheng strangled the pocket to prevent it from breaking free. The security guard at the door saw this scene and was not surprised. He nodded slightly at Su Sheng, and helped Su Sheng open the sliding door. Su Sheng smiled politely, "Thank you, Brother Xiaolin." Little meaning. The security guard named Xiaolin shook his head and asked casually, "Is your sister getting better?" "It's better, I guess it won't be long before I can go to school again." Brother Xiaolin smiled and said, "That's good, go back soon." Su Sheng responded and walked toward the community with his sometimes struggling snakeskin pocket. Security guard Xiaolin watched Su Sheng gradually go away, and shook his head slightly. This young man is too miserable. Not only is his parents gone, but his sister is suddenly sick again. It's really not easy. Su Sheng took the elevator up to the 14th floor and walked from the corridor to door 1406. Before he pressed the doorbell, the door was pushed open. A girl with a high ponytail and a delicate face appeared from behind the door. "Brother, you are back." Su Shui was very happy. "Xiao Shui, it's time to have a big meal again today." Su Shui looked at the snakeskin pocket in Su Sheng's hand, her eyes darkened and immediately returned to normal, and she cheered, "Great! Want to eat a big meal?" Took a pair of slippers from the shoe rack and put them at the door. Su Shui let out, "Come in, brother." Su Sheng rubbed his left foot with his right foot and changed his shoes, holding his snakeskin pocket and walking straight to the bathroom. Su Shui bent over to put her shoes away, then closed the door, and continued to prepare breakfast in the kitchen. In the bathroom, there are densely packed small holes more than 20 centimeters deep on the ground. Su Sheng closed the door and shook the contents of the snakeskin pocket on the ground. This is a black saber-tooth with black scales and ragged teeth. The black armored saber-tooth is not an ordinary animal, but a fierce beast that is only one step away from the monster. It is not small, but it is extremely flexible, has an amazing bite force, and has a strong offensiveness. However, after being dealt with by the seller, he is now in a half-dead coma. Su Sheng took a 1-meter-long three-sided iron thorn from the corner of the bathroom. A faint layer of spiritual power flowed out of his body and covered the iron thorn along his arm. The thorn tip shone with cold light, which made people feel chilling. Squatted down slightly, Su Sheng held the black armored saber-tooth with his left hand and held the iron thorn in his right hand. Puff! The sound of meat entering sounded, and Su Sheng accurately pierced the black armored saber-tooth and nailed it to the ground. Severe pain came, and the black armored saber-tooth instantly regained consciousness, struggling frantically. The body more than 2 feet long slapped the ground fiercely. But no matter how hard it struggles, it can't break free from the shackles of the three-sided iron thorns. On the contrary, it tore the wound while struggling, and blood splashed all over. Su Sheng did not care about it, but focused his gaze on the midair in front of him. There is a translucent panel that no one can see, with only one line of text on it, "Killing Point, 98/100." After a dying struggle, the black armored saber-tooth beside gradually lost its sound. At the same time, the 98 on the front panel of Su Sheng's eyes suddenly jumped and turned into 99. Almost. Su Sheng's eyes flashed. 3 years later, he had traveled into this world for 6 years. Yes, Su Sheng is not a person from this world, but from the Earth. This planet is called Halen Star, and its area is at least 100 times the size of the Earth. Su Sheng is now in Tianhui City in Yunnan Country, one of the 3 powers on Halen Star. 6 years ago, the original owner of this body was extremely desperate because his parents died in the monster disaster. And Su Sheng crossed over suddenly, and when he first crossed over, This paragraph of text appeared in front of his eyes. Killing point, 0/100 Suisheng, who is only 11 years old, not only has to support himself, but also takes care of his younger sister Suishuet. Fortunately, Suisheng's parents left a lot of savings, and the government issued a lot of compensation every month, so Suisheng was able to pull his sister up. I thought it would go on like this, but I didn't expect that in the winter a year and a half ago, Suishue suddenly became ill, her body suddenly became cold and temperatureless from time to time, and she became weaker and weaker since then, often fainted, even going to school. It is also very difficult. I have to interrupt my studies and stay at home to recuperate. Suisheng spent almost all the savings in the family and took Suishue to the hospital, but he didn't find out why. Until later, a group of people in black uniforms suddenly came to the house. The leading young woman did not wear a black uniform, but a white coat with black rimmed glasses. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com appeared very capable. When the white coat came up, he ignored Suisheng's obstruction and checked Suishue. Finally said to Suisheng, "She is fine, this is a special sign before awakening some extreme mental states, keep enough sleep, and eat some high-energy beast meat every few days." After that, a group of people left vigorously. The younger sister was weak day by day, and Suisheng had no choice but to follow the words of the white coat suspiciously, and bought all kinds of fierce beast meat for Suishue in the mall. Within a few days, Suishue's body gradually recovered, although I haven't been able to go to school, but I have not passed out suddenly. One day, Suisheng wanted to change Suishue's taste, so he bought a kind of fish and beast, and came back to kill it himself. It is this day that the killing point, which has never changed, suddenly changed from 0 to 1. Suisheng doesn't understand yet, this is how to obtain the killing point. Although I don't know what the progress of this killing point means, Suisheng has a hunch that this will be a very important turning point for him. Since then, Suisheng has made various attempts and found that only by killing some beasts with his own hands can he obtain 1 point of killing. As for ordinary chicken, duck, fish, etc., there is no killing point at all. This black armored saber-tooth is one of the most cost-effective beasts that Suisheng has found to obtain killing points. Not only is the price cheap, it only needs 4,000 consumption points, and it can also be brought home and be killed by himself without arousing suspicion. Until now, finally has 99 kill points, only one step away from 100. Suisheng's mood is difficult to calm. I don't know what will happen when it reaches 100. With a heart move, the transparent panel disappeared. Suisheng pulled out the iron thorn, rinsed it, and began to process the fish. Lin Feng did not rush to speak, but waited for the discussion to calm down before Shi Shiran said, "You have opinions because you are still very ignorant. I can only tell you that life in the Sacred Academy is not stable. The more the top spiritual institution, the more responsibilities it takes, and the higher the requirements for students. Possessing a mental image will make it more likely to live. The request of the 4 great spiritual houses is not for arrogance, but for students. Many students seem to understand, but some people who know the students of the spiritual school seem to understand something. Of course, only the top spiritual houses have such a rigid requirement. Below the top level, each spiritual house also has a unified bonus policy for mental states, and the maximum can even be increased to 100 points. 100 points. So much. Everyone now understands how important the mind is. What an advantage can you occupy in the college entrance examination? Most of the scenes did not awaken their minds, and for a while, frustration filled the audience. And those who have awakened their feelings are happy. Yan Sheng looked a little ugly beside him. Don't suffer from worries, suffer from unevenness. Lin Feng's words were very discouraging to the students' enthusiasm, and he quickly took over, "You don't have to be discouraged. The age of 16 to 18 is the time to awaken your mind. There is still a whole year left. Maybe one day you will be awakened. Besides, even if you don't have a mental attitude, you can enter a first-class spiritual academy as long as you work hard. After hearing Yan Sheng's words, the students slowly regained their fighting spirit. Lin Feng looked faint, non-committal. You know that if you can awaken, it will usually be before the age of 17, and very few people awaken at the age of 17 to 18. Time passed, and it was noon unknowingly. At the end of the exchange, Lin Feng dropped another blockbuster. This time I came here, in addition to introducing you to the college entrance examination, the other purpose is to come in advance to see if there are any good seedlings in Radiant City. After the meeting is over, I intend to apply for my Feng Yang Ling Yuan, and classmates who have a mind, can come to me. As long as I pass my review, I can participate in the summer camp of our Feng Yang Ling Yuan in the following summer vacation. If you perform well, you may even be admitted in advance. Summer camp at Feng Yang Ling Yuan? Early admission. Good opportunity. I'm going to try it later, Feng Yang Ling Yuan. If I can enter the Feng Yang Ling Yuan, my parents will be happy. Me too, go together later. Count me in. A small number of people are ready to move, and others can only cast envious glances. Yan Sheng and a group of teachers sent Lin Feng out of the large classroom before returning to announce the end of the meeting. It can be seen that this senior Lin Feng is indeed very capable, otherwise Yan Sheng, the grade director who is also a spiritualist, would not be so polite. The vacation is about to go, and the afternoon class didn't talk about important points. It was nothing more than the class teacher who told me not to slack off during the summer vacation. In addition, there is one more important thing, that is, students with mental physiognomy should go to the secret realm to hold a trial of mental physiognomy a few days before the beginning of school. The specific time will be notified separately. The Mind Sangha class is a class composed of people who have Mind Sangha, with the goal of hitting the first class and even the top class spiritual academies. Because most of the students were just 16 years old when they first entered the second year of high school, and few people are awakened, so they are usually sorted out in the third year of high school. Speaking of it, most of the people who have awakened their minds have gone to Lin Feng to apply for the summer camp at Feng Yang Ling Yuan. In the evening, the last class before the summer vacation ended, and Su Sheng returned to Liulai Garden. Before opening the door, Su Shuet, who heard the movement in the aisle, came over in advance and opened the door. Su Sheng couldn't help thinking of the morning news, and exhorted, Zioxiu, it seems that the neighborhood is not safe recently. Be careful when you are at home, and don't open the door casually. Don't worry, brother, I know. Su Shui smiled sweetly, come and taste the Taiyan fish that I made. I guarantee it will be better than last time. It was another week or so, and the time came to July. In the new January, the government's compensation finally arrived. In the afternoon, Su Sheng couldn't wait to go to the old place and buy a black saber tooth. Brother, are you back? Su Sheng nodded, holding the snakeskin pocket and walking towards the bathroom. Zioxiu, you cook other dishes, I'll go to deal with the fish first. The door of the bathroom was locked, and Su Sheng poured the half-dead black armored saber on the floor of the bathroom, feeling excited. Killing point, 99/100. After so many years, this progress bar will finally reach 100/100. Took the three-sided iron thorn on the side, Su Sheng closed his eyes and took a few deep breaths before he calmed down. Calmly, holding the black armored saber tooth with his left hand, and pinning it with a decisive blow with his right hand. Did not care about how the black armored saber tooth fish struggled, Su Sheng couldn't wait to open the transparent panel. Killing point 99/100. Killing point 100/100. Ding! The killing point meets the requirements, and the killing system is on. Ding! A twin mental phase is detected in the host, do you load it? Mind? Twin? Su Sheng was taken aback, his heart beating wildly, and he said without hesitation, yes. Heart 1 loading. Name visit. Ability analysis. Evolution analysis. Loading is complete. Hard 2 loading. Name visit. Ability analysis. Evolution analysis. World loaded. A series of prompt tones sounded in Suosheng's mind. Suosheng opened the system panel. This time the content was much richer. The waves in Suosheng's heart not only awakened his mind, but also awakened too. Rao is Suosheng, who has lived for more than 30 years in his 2 lifetimes. He was almost lost by this sudden joy. Fortunately, I controlled my emotions at the last moment. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com did not shout loudly. Otherwise, Zioxu, who is cooking in the kitchen, must think that she is too stressed and has mental problems. Suosheng consciousness sinks into the sea of knowledge. Sure enough, seeing 2 hearts, one red and one gold. The red one is a butterfly, and the gold one is a clock with a pointer. Both mental phases are relatively simple, and the light is dim. Suosheng hasn't heard of anyone who has 2 mental states, and he wants to talk about his special place. Is it because of crossing? Suosheng opened his eyes, opened the shower on the side, and the water rushed down. I felt like a natural talent, and the flow rate of the faucet in front of me suddenly increased to 1.5 times. A few minutes later, after continuous testing, Suosheng already knew how to accelerate time. With his current ability, he can speed up the range of a radius of 3 meters, or the time flow rate of the target, and the speed can be up to twice the original speed. What a strong ability! Not to mention anything else, just acting on yourself is enough to double your speed. And doubled the time spent thinking and making decisions during the battle. Only these 2 points are enough to make Suosheng's combat power soar. It's just that time acceleration consumes a lot of spiritual power, and within 10 minutes, the spiritual power in Suosheng's body has been exhausted. Suosheng estimated that if the time is accelerated at full speed, 1 point of spiritual power will be consumed in 10 seconds. It's okay to burst out in a short period of time. If you fight for a long-term battle, your current strength is not enough to support it. But Suosheng is also very satisfied. Needless to say, is powerful. As for the other, it seems to be similar to the ability to summon the undead. It hasn't been tested yet. Gecko. So it's you. Zhou Ting exclaimed, even the executors were dispatched. I can really stand up to me by running to such a far-away radiant city to chase me. Gu Ming chuckled, it seems that I still have some fame. Before the words fell, his figure disappeared in vain, and he appeared in front of Zhou Ting and slashed. Zhou Ting couldn't move at all. As long as he made a large movement, it would affect the wound. In desperation, he had to turn into a shadow and sink into the ground again, cast shadow movement, and drilled out of the shadow of a big tree 10 meters away. However, Gu Ming shook his figure before catching up again. Don't struggle. In this state, even if you can move through the shadows, you can't escape. Zhou Ting's face sank like water. He was severely injured, his spiritual power was limited, and Gu Ming could not be shaken off simply by moving. If this continues, it is nothing more than being chased to death after the spiritual power is exhausted. And the spiritual power fluctuations here might cause the Radiant City Defense Forces to come over. Zhou Ting emerged from the shadows, with a trace of madness on his face. Okay, the big deal is to die together. Seeing Zhou Ting reappearing, Gu Ming took several steps and quickly came to Zhou Ting's side. Hey! Don't hide! Seeing Zhou Ting didn't seem to have the intention to move again, a trace of puzzlement appeared on Gu Ming's face. Could it be that his spiritual power was running out? However, at this time, Gu Ming saw the shadow behind Zhou Ting slowly moving. A strong sense of crisis came, and Gu Ming did not hesitate, and immediately took the knife and forcibly jumped back. The next moment, the shadow riot. A large number of shadows crazily gathered from the ground and suddenly turned into a dark shadow that stabs Gu Ming in front of him. The thorn of shadow is too fast. Even if Gu Ming had given warning signs, he couldn't dodge, a strong pain came from his chest. Gu Ming is extremely tolerant of pain. At this moment, he can't help but frown. Looking down, there is a blood hole in the middle of his chest, and the blood flow continues. Fight the enemy with one blow. Gu Ming felt the loss of physical strength, and couldn't hold on anymore, and slumped on the ground. There was not much spiritual power left when he recovered the wound. Gu Ming tried his best to initiate high-speed regeneration, but the big hole in his chest was difficult to recover. It turns out that more than the shadow shift, are there other ways to use it? Gu Ming didn't expect that in addition to the shadow shift, Zhou Ting could directly gather the shadows to attack. In fact, Zhou Ting barely understood the thorn of the shadow, and now it is very difficult to use it. Gu Ming said solemnly, "Such a talent, 21 years old, if you don't go to school in the spiritual academy, why do you want to be a wanted criminal? I want you to take care of." Zhou Ting fell to the ground weakly, because of the forcible use of the shadow thorn. His own spiritual power was even scarce, and his face was pale as paper, and his condition was worse than Gu Ming. Gu Ming wanted to stand up, but couldn't stand up. The two looked at each other, no longer said more, both of them secretly regained their spiritual power. Who can restore some spiritual power first, who can lead to the final victory? The cold moonlight shone on the bodies of the two of them, as if they were about to freeze them. Only the hot cicadas chirping added a bit of vitality to the cold scene. At this moment, there was a click and the sound of stepping on broken branches sounded. Zhou Ting and Gu Ming were shocked, and at the same time they turned their heads to look away. I don't know when a student-like teenager appeared on the way up the mountain not far ahead, with white short-sleeved slacks, sneakers and an ebony sword for practice in his hand. Zhou Ting was shocked, but Gu Ming looked excited and immediately said, "Young man, come." Gu Ming didn't feel the powerful spiritual power from the young man, but even just an ordinary student, under the situation that the two are extremely poor now, they are enough to become the last straw to overwhelm the balance. Su Sheng came to practice the sword, but he didn't expect to see this scene before him. Hearing Gu Ming's greeting, Su Sheng did not go over immediately, but stood still and looked at the two of them. The long-haired young man on the left is a bit familiar, Su Sheng suddenly remembered. Isn't this the class wanted criminal reported? Such a coincidence? The burly young man on the right is older, with the emblem of the Yunlin National City Defense Force printed on his chest. Su Sheng didn't want to mix up, but suddenly thought of something, and walked over vigilantly after some thought. Zhou Ting saw Su Sheng walking next to Gu Ming, his expression tightened, and staring at Su Sheng coldly, "Boy, leave as soon as you don't want to die. I'll kill you if you dare to be troublesome." Gu Ming, the City Defense Army. Gu Ming tapped his finger on the long knife on the ground and stared at Su Sheng's eyes. "Young man, this man is a wanted criminal. Kill him with my knife." Su Sheng ignored it, but reached out his hand and fumbled on Gu Ming. Gu Ming glanced at Su Sheng somewhat unexpectedly, and reminded, "The inside of the clothes." Su Sheng heard this and found a certificate in the inner pocket of his clothes. Tianhui City Defense Forces, Class F, Gu Ming. Su Sheng compared it with him. It was indeed the person in front of him. He put back his credentials and picked up a long knife from the ground. When Zhou Ting saw him, he didn't know well, so he quickly said, "Don't listen to him, you're still a middle school student, how can you kill people? Killing me will not do you any good." Su Sheng paused when he heard the words, and seemed to be moved. Gu Ming also knew that it would be difficult for middle school students to participate for no reason. He said loudly, "This person already has several lives in his hands. If you can kill him, it is also for the people. I can call the shots and give him the reward. You are paid in full." Su Sheng nodded, no longer hesitating, and quickly approached Zhou Ting with a long knife in his hand. Zhou Ting gradually showed hopelessness on this face. www.mtlnovel.com. In fact, Zhou Ting has recovered a little spiritual power, but it is not enough to kill Gu Ming in the distance. I originally thought that if Gu Ming recovered first and came to the front, trying to overdraft himself, he could also use the spiritual power he just recovered to launch the shadow sting again to fight for desperation and survive from the dead. I didn't expect a student to come in midway. Even if I killed the student, the spiritual power that was finally recovered would be exhausted again and fell into a desperate situation. While Zhou Ting thought about it, Su Sheng was already a few steps closer. The first time he killed someone, Su Sheng's heartbeat was fast. Can look at the immobile Zhou Ting on the ground, like a black armored saber-toothed fish that he has killed countless times, and his mentality suddenly returns to calm. Su Sheng stared at Zhou Ting's heart, as if it were the black spot on the black armored saber-tooth. He immediately raised the long knife, holding the long knife with both hands back and about to insert it. There is a cruel flash on Zhou Ting's face. It is you who are looking for death. The shadow under his body condensed into a pitch-black shadow thorn for a moment, and when it's suddenly violent, it will pierce Su Sheng first. The abnormal change suddenly appeared, and Gu Ming exclaimed, "Be careful." Su Sheng was shocked, but he didn't expect Zhou Ting to be the lamb to be slaughtered. The golden light floats in his eyes, and Su Sheng secretly said in his heart, "Time accelerates." In the eyes of both Gu Ming and Zhou Ting, Su Sheng's movements unexpectedly speeded up, almost doubled. Puff, the sound of meat entering sounded. A sharp, dark shadow stabbed in front of Su Sheng's neck, but he could no longer move forward. Because the long knife in Su Sheng's hand has already pierced Zhou Ting's heart precisely. Zhou Ting's face was full of surprise and puzzlement, the expression in his eyes gradually darkened, the shadow thorns burst, and they turned into shadows and retracted back to the ground. Su Sheng's cold sweat broke out on his forehead, drop by drop fell from his cheek, and his heart beat violently. Just a little bit. Was almost pierced. As expected, you can't underestimate your opponent at any time. After a sigh of relief, Su Sheng opened the panel, and the killing point unexpectedly increased by 48 points. So much? Worthy of being in Flavel Spiritualist, he gave nearly half of his kill points in one go. At this moment, a peculiar feeling surged into my heart. Su Sheng raised his left hand, and an illusory red butterfly flew out between his fingers, flapping its wings and flew into Zhou Ting's body and disappeared. Su Sheng's heart moved, and he already understood the usage of not crossing the other shore. Turned around and looked at Gu Ming, who was still sitting on the ground. Su Sheng's eyes flashed. Gu Ming and Zhou Ting confronted each other. The two of them were of equal strength. There was no reason to guess that Zhou Ting had recovered a bit and already had the ability to resist. Even if it is uncertain, it is very likely. But Gu Ming still induced himself, an ordinary student who might be helpless to fight back, to kill Zhou Ting. Didn't even give a hint. After all, Su Sheng was a human for 2 lives. His face quickly returned to normal, and he returned to Gu Ming. Gu Ming was also greatly surprised. He didn't expect Su Sheng to kill Zhou Ting at the critical moment of life and death in the face of the mutation, and he couldn't help but re-examine Su Sheng. Seeing Su Sheng coming over, Gu Ming squirmed at the corner of his mouth and gestured into his jacket pocket. Su Sheng digs out his jacket pocket, and only a box of cigarettes and an expensive perfect lighter are there. Su Sheng looked at Gu Ming suspiciously. "Don't pay, this is it. Give me some order." Su San looked at Gu Ming's breasts, curled his lips and said nothing. Yin lit them on him. Gu Ming raised his head and narrowed his eyes slightly. "A cigarette after the incident has beaten a living god." Turned his head and glanced at Su Sheng next to him. Gu Ming said lightly, "Are you thinking, why don't you remind you?" "That's right." Since the opponent clicked on it, Su Sheng didn't have to think about it. The person just now has the ability to fight back. If it wasn't for my own strength, it would be me who died just now. I'm not trying to save myself. Gu Ming spit out the smoke ring and looked directly at Su Sheng. "If you sacrifice an ordinary citizen and you can catch a powerful class wanted criminal, I will do this. What's more, this man has already killed 2 city defense troops. After that, Gu Ming ignored Su Sheng's reaction and lost a business card. Since you have accepted the order, it is normal that there is a risk. Then contact me and give you a bounty for killing Zhou Ting. This is what you deserve. Su Sheng is non-committal. Risk and hiding information are completely different things. However, at this point, I can't take Gu Ming anymore, so I can only accept the business card. Seeing that he couldn't die, Su Sheng turned and left. After a while, a black car stopped at the gate of Nanxing Park. After getting out of the car, 2 men and a woman rushed towards the mountain, much faster than ordinary people. Soon the 3 of them found Gu Ming, who was sitting with his back against the tree and smoking. The first time I saw Gu Ming so embarrassed, the 3 of them were shocked, and immediately opened the medical kit they brought to treat the wounds for Gu Ming. One of the young people bandaged Gu Ming and asked, "Boss, is Zhou Ting so good? You are not even an opponent." Gu Ming raised his chin and motioned to the 3 of them. The 3 of them turned around and took a closer look. Only then did they see Zhou Ting, who had been dead for a long time. Damn! Scared me. The attention of the 3 of them was on Gu Ming, and they didn't notice Zhou Ting, who was completely alive in the distance. Cow, boss! The boss cheats! Gu Ming ignored the little brother's flattery, still thinking of the student just now. Not only is he calm and decisive when killing, but is his mind so delicate. Gu Ming was smoking a cigarette, his eyes narrowed slightly. Su Sheng came out of Nanxing Park and did not go home directly. Instead, he came to Nanxing Park, on the embankment beside the river under the bridge. After walking along the river for 10 minutes, Su Sheng stopped. After confirming that there was no one around, Su Sheng whispered, "If you don't cross the other shore, the dead are marching." An illusory red butterfly immediately flew out and landed in front of Su Sheng, emitting a faint light. At the same time, the spiritual power in Su Sheng's body swarmed out like a bank burst. With the loss of spiritual power, the light above the red butterfly became more and more shining, suddenly turning the butterfly into a cocoon, forming a huge spiritual cocoon. After a while, the light cocoon broke open, and a thin figure with no strands of weight came out of it. It was Su Sheng who had just killed Zhou Ting. Zhou Ting opened his eyes and looked at Su Sheng in shock. "I didn't expect you to have such a magical ability." Was summoned through the other shore not to cross, Zhou Ting immediately understood the current situation. Su Sheng leaned against the stone wall and rubbed the brows that were so distended from the excessive consumption of mental energy. "You should check your condition first." Zhou Ting nodded and checked it carefully, and found that all the injuries suffered before his death had disappeared. Cast a shadow ghost, the body turned into a shadow and sank to the ground, wandering around in the night, and returned to the original place again after a while. Zhou Ting was overjoyed. "No problem, it's the same as before. Except for the red butterfly mark on the chest. Although is restricted, it is reborn anyway, which is worthy of joy." Su Sheng's eyes fell on Zhou Ting's chest, where the red butterfly mark was exactly the same as his mind. Can not only summon the killed creatures to make the dead dolls, but also subtly reverse the thinking, giving the dolls the highest mission with the master as the first priority. This is not crossing the other shore. It seems that this trick of yours consumes a lot of mental energy. Zhou Ting looked at Su Sheng, smiling and trying to say something, but when Su Sheng waved his hand, Zhou Ting immediately turned into a red butterfly and flew to Su Sheng's palm and disappeared. Not see. Glanced around, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Su Sheng did not stay any longer, and went straight back to Liulai Garden. "Brother, are you back?" Su Shui was exercising on the yoga mat, wondering, "I'm back so early today." Su Sheng rubbed his eyebrows and said casually, "Something happened." The mental energy consumption just now was too great, and Su Sheng felt that if Zhou Ting got stronger, he was afraid that he would faint on the spot. "Although it has eased up now, I am still exhausted, but it is not the time to rest." Back in the room, Su Sheng locked the door and turned on the music. The voice turned louder. Then raised his hand, Hengdi flew out and became Zhou Ting. Just as Zhou Ting was about to say something, he saw that Su Sheng made a silence momentum. "Be quiet, there are people in the house." Zhou Ting nodded, and looked around. "Is this your home? It looks pretty good." Su Sheng opened the closet and said to the naked Zhou Ting, "Choose one first, then go back and choose." Zhou Ting took a look in the closet and curled his lips. "Your clothes are small and old." Su Sheng is only 17 years old, and he is still in the stage of growing his body, which is indeed too young for Zhou Ting, who is in his early 18 years. Su Sheng sat back on the bed and said, "Just leave it here, then buy it later." Although he used the other side to resurrect Zhou Ting and put him under his control, his own strength was not as good as Zhou Ting after all. The spiritual disciple is still not at the level, and he is better than ordinary people, but when he meets a dozen or 20 big men, he will also be knocked down. And Flavel is already a master with strong lethality. Even if there are more ordinary people, it is difficult to injure Flavel spiritualists without using thermal weapons. So Su Sheng faced Zhou Ting. If it weren't for a leak, I'm afraid he wouldn't be able to go through a few rounds. Zhou Ting casually chose a loose vest and shorts to wear, and sat on the chair in front of the desk. Su Sheng stared at Zhou Ting. "Let's talk about your situation." Zhou Ting looked awkward and didn't seem to want to mention it. Although Su Sheng could force Zhou Ting to speak out, after thinking about it, he still said, "I don't care about why you are wanted. Since you have already died once, you will go with your previous life. Apart from this, tell me about you." "Strength?" Zhou Ting looked at Su Sheng in surprise, and then grinned. "Let's just talk like that. Is there any beer Coke?" Su Sheng got up and went to the refrigerator in the living room to get 2 bottles of Coke. It was no surprise that Su Shui in the living room saw him, thinking that Su Sheng was taking one more bottle at a time, so as not to come out again later. "Hey!" Zhou Ting opened the pull ring, took a sip, and said, "My current strength is in Flavel Intermediate, an elemental heart shadow ghost, and my ability is shadow manipulation." Su Sheng listened to what Zhou Ting said and checked the newly added information on the panel. Higgan ability, never cross the other shore can transform a person killed by oneself into a puppet that cannot be liberated. The state and abilities of the puppet are the same as before and can move freely. Current doll, Zhou Ting level, F level intermediate mind, shadow ghost. The information of Zhou Ting on the panel has been entered and can be expanded to view. The strength is indeed consistent with what he said. Flavel to Alavel is a grading method that is shared by the entire Heilangzing centered on spiritual power. Each level increases, the strength and total amount of spiritual power will increase by nearly 2 times, and each level increase will also increase by 20 to 30%. At the same time, the physical body will also be tempered, and the physical fitness will be improved in an all-round way. Su Sheng showed a look of interest. "You just said that your shadow ghost is an elemental dark-linked mental state, what is this saying?" Su Sheng had just awakened his mind and didn't understand the relevant knowledge. Zhou Ting was a little surprised, and immediately realized that Su Sheng was only a middle school student, and his expression was stunned. This is the basic knowledge of spiritual practitioners, and will be officially taught after being promoted to the Spiritual Institute. Su Sheng interrupted, "Are you a student of the Spiritual Academy before?" Since Zhou Ting said that, she was mostly a student of the Spiritual Institute before, but she just didn't know why she became a wanted criminal. Zhou Ting suffocated when he heard the words, and nodded after a long while, not knowing what to think of falling into silence. Continue with the topic just now. Su Sheng didn't want to learn about the past. Zhou Ting tapped the Coke bottle and slowly said, "The mental states are from the soul, and there are many kinds, thousands. Each mental state represents a unique ability, which can be roughly classified into the following categories: enhanced, element type, special type. Enhanced type is relatively common, and more than 90% of mental phases fall into this category. After activation, you can gain enhanced power, enhanced strength, speed, and other qualities. usually in various monster patterns. Is the elemental type followed by the elemental type, which is further subdivided into fire, wind, ice, etc., which can transform spiritual power into the power of various elements and activate exclusive spiritual skills. Finally, it is a special type. Except for the enhanced and elemental types, they are all special types, including the mental system, the illusion system, the mind system, the summoning system, the rule system, and so on. Special types of mental states are strong and weak, strong very strong, weak very weak, but they are rare, and there is no 1 in 10. Speaking of this, Zhou Ting worked hard at Su Sheng's chin. The ability like yours belongs to the special type of summoning system. Zhou Ting couldn't help thinking that Su Sheng had suddenly exploded with a strange speed when he killed him earlier. Could it be the ability that summoned his own mind? Or is it some kind of accelerated magic? Su Sheng asked, according to your words, there are not many special types of emotions, so you should be able to add a lot of points in the college entrance examination, right? Of course, the college entrance examination mentality can add up to 100 points, but that is the theoretical upper limit. In fact, very few can exceed 50 points. Under normal circumstances, enhanced mentality can add more than 20 points, and elemental mentality can add about 40 points. For example, my shadow control adds 48 points back then. As for the special type, there are several points to dozens. 50 points is a threshold, and your ability is likely to exceed 50 points. Su Sheng was a little surprised, but he didn't expect Zhou Ting to have such a high evaluation of Bianfu. Su Sheng didn't know that Zhou Ting was shocked when he was just reborn. Other people's summoning system summons the summons with low or even no sage. Su Shen can summon a doll with the complete state and abilities in his lifetime. But what? Seeing Zhou Ting's expression a little hesitant, Su Sheng asked. Zhou Ting frowned and said, although your ability is powerful, it is close to the magic way. You may be disliked by some spiritual schools, and you are also vulnerable to hostility from your peers. Is there such a thing? Of course, for example, the Xingfen Ling Yuan in the 4 major spiritual schools in the western regions emphasizes both good morals and academics, and upright and bright. Any ability with the attribute of evil is not accepted by the Xingfen Ling Yuan. Su Sheng knew that there is still so much attention. What about the other 3 top spiritual houses? Zhou Ting is a treasure of many families, and introduced them one by one. The Yuanhui Ling Yuan in the Southern Territory, which specializes in students of various element types, is also quite professional in this area of teaching. The Jidao Ling Yuan to the east advocates the supremacy of power. The stronger the power, the better the treatment. As for the Ziwei Ling Yuan in the north, it is faintly the first of the Qianbei Ling Yuan in the Yunlin Kingdom. A gathering of talents has the deepest heritage. Su Sheng listened with interest. Zhou Ting, as a former student of the spiritual school, really knows a lot about the spiritual school. Is not just a thug, but with his guidance, his college entrance examination can definitely be raised to another level, and his chances of being promoted to a first-class spiritual institution are greatly increased. It seems that the risk taken earlier is also worth it. After another exchange, Su Sheng took Zhou Ting back. Whispered in my heart, Yu reading www.theyuyuganshu.com system panel appears in front of you again. Host, Su Sheng level, Spiritist killing point, 48 Higan ability, never cross the other shore and transform a person killed by oneself into a puppet that cannot be liberated. The state and abilities of the puppet are the same as before and can move freely. Current doll, Zhou Ting ability, time acceleration can accelerate the time around oneself. The range and flow rate are affected by one's own level, spiritual power, and the degree of liberation of the mind. Strike basic swordsmanship, introduction basic fighting, beginner. This time he killed Zhou Ting and gave a kill point of 48 points. Now it is empty and ready to be used. Let's take a look, what's the use of the killing point? Su Sheng's eyes fell on the panel, and he secretly said in his heart, use a little killing point and add it to the spiritual power. After waiting for a long time, there was no response. Su Sheng was not discouraged and continued to try, use a little killing point and add it to the world. Yes. Su Sheng was overjoyed, and it really worked. Although 10,000 is far away, it at least shows that killing points can promote mental growth. Su Sheng settled down, looked at the martial arts column, and tried again, use a little killing point and add it to the basic swordsmanship. Basic swordsmanship, getting started. Su Sheng couldn't help showing joy. From this point of view, although the killing point cannot be used directly to increase spiritual power, it can enhance the overall strength by enhancing mentality and skills. Increase basic swordsmanship to 40. The basic swordsmanship was blurred for a while, and then it became, a stream of heat poured into his body. Su Sheng felt his body lighten, and a large amount of kendo knowledge and experience poured into his mind out of thin air. Su Sheng was very surprised. In addition to improving swordsmanship, there is actually an effect of increasing speed. Taking the wooden sword from the shelf next to the desk, Su Sheng opened the door and went to the living room, swinging the wooden sword as a practice. Cutting sword, stabbing sword, point sword, standing sword. All basic swords are called to cast back and forth. 10 minutes later, Su Sheng put away the wooden sword, closed his eyes and tried to hide his excitement. Sure enough, the realm of mastery. Brother, that's amazing. Seeing Su Sheng's swordsmanship while still exercising, Su Shui couldn't help but open her mouth slightly, much better than before. Su Sheng opened his eyes and smiled, I have some experience recently. Took the towel that Su Shui handed over and wiped his sweat. Su Sheng returned to the bedroom, excited. Although the killing system cannot directly improve spiritual power, nor can it be made out of nothing, as long as it has a foundation, it can forcibly enhance its own existing skills, and the strength it has gained seems to have been tempered by itself. Su Sheng raised his swordsmanship to the proficient level with just one addition. And the basic swordsmanship of the master level can also passively increase the speed by 10%, and the improvement is obvious. I don't know what effect will be after Xiaocheng, Dacheng, or even consummation. Su Sheng couldn't help but look forward to it. The realm of art and skill is divided into 6 stages: beginner, proficient, small achievement, great achievement, and perfection. As one of the items in the college entrance examination, the art of combat is very important, and it is an important part of the actual combat level of the spiritualist. The training of certain weapons and spiritual skills also requires the relevant art of combat to reach a certain level. In the college entrance examination, generally reach the state of proficiency, and can get a perfect score in martial arts. I have practiced swords for so many years, and he has achieved proficiency in such a miraculous way today, just like a dream. Looking at the system panel in front of him, it is not difficult for Su Sheng to determine his next goal. Improve spiritual power and accumulate killing points. The next day, Su Sheng sat at the desk with a business card in his fingertips. Gu Ming, I helped Gu Ming solve Zhou Ting. Gu Ming said that he would give Zhou Ting's bounty to himself in full. But what happened yesterday made Su Sheng feel that Gu Ming is very unreliable. Strong and indifferent to people. But now, money represents the killing point, and it represents strength. If the money is not really needed, Su Sheng would not want to deal with him again. After thinking about it, Su Sheng must have picked up the phone from the table and called Gu Ming. In an office renovated in an underground warehouse, 7 or 8 people are busy with classical music in the warm lights. In the center of the spacious office, Gu Ming leaned back on the sofa, smoking a cigarette, flipping through the sheets of information handed over by the beautiful female secretary standing next to him. Jingle bell. The cell phone on the coffee table rang suddenly. Hey, who? Gu Ming's thick smoke came through. It's me. Gu Ming heard Su Sheng's voice, put down the information, and took a breath. Send your personal account here. Account is now that he called. Su Sheng had already thought about it, and he didn't hesitate to directly report his personal account. Gu Ming took the pen, handwritten a note and handed it to the beautiful female assistant next to him. The female assistant took the note and immediately took out the phone to operate it. Within a minute, Su Sheng heard the transfer message reminder. Su Sheng opened it, his eyes were surprised. So much. Actually has a full 600,000 consumption points. Su Sheng felt that he really underestimated the weight of an class mid-level wanted criminal. Received. For the first time in his life, he received such a large sum of money, and Su Sheng couldn't help his heart beating faster. Okay, bye. Gu Ming hung up the phone after he finished speaking, picked up the information again and looked at it, without looking up, and said, check it out. The female assistant next to naturally knew what Gu Ming wanted to investigate, and Gong Sheng replied, yes. Gu Ming is really vigorous and resolute. Su Sheng put the phone away. No matter what, he had a huge sum of money. Although Su Sheng is not an eye-opener to see money, but with this 600,000, there is hope of hitting the first class and even the spiritual school. Cultivation is not only on oneself, but also requires financial resources. If you have money, you can buy pills to help you practice. And the most important thing here is Ling Yin Dan. Su Sheng immediately turned on the computer and browsed through the online store. Ling Yin Dan can promote the spiritual power to absorb spiritual power, a value of 30,000. Su Sheng directly bought 12 after gritted his teeth. All of a sudden, most of the 600,000 consumption points in Su Shen's account went to more than 240,000. But Su Sheng didn't feel distressed. It was only 1 year away from the college entrance examination. Now is not the time to save. It is real to convert money into his own strength as soon as possible. You must know that even if it is a difficult family, as long as their children go to school in the spirit, they will try to pool money to buy enough pills to assist in their cultivation. And Su Sheng has never taken Ling Yin pill since Su Shui fell ill. Fortunately, relying on talent and down-to-earth efforts, Su Shen still has 69 spiritual power, which is also good in the second spirit. With this batch of pills, Su Sheng is confident to reach www.mentalnovel.com even 90 points of spiritual power during the college entrance examination. Throughout the summer vacation, Su Sheng practiced spiritual power during the day and went to Nanxing Park to practice sword after dinner. Ling disciple's ability to withstand pill is limited. Su Sheng takes a Ling Yin pill every 3 days. 2 months passed in a flash. Su Sheng stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows in the living room, seeming to be looking at the endless road outside, but his eyes were focused on the close range. Level, Spiritist Killing Point, 46. It's so fast to spend money. Su Sheng sighed slightly, but the progress is pretty good. At the beginning, a complete digestion of a Ling Yin pill could increase the spiritual power by a little bit, but the effect gradually weakened later. 12 Spirit Yin pills plus 2 months of time increased 10 points of spiritual power, saving most of the training time. The remaining 200,000 Su Sheng in his hand did not purchase any medicines anymore, but instead planned to use it in exchange for killing points. 4,000 Black Armored Saber-Tooth Fish, 100,000 can buy 25, from the previous 1 week, now you can eat 2 a week. Even if Su Shui's cooking skills are superb, Taiyan fish, sauerkraut fish, tomato fish and all kinds of fish were changed to eat, and the 2 brothers and sisters were a little tired of eating. But the Black Armored Saber-Tooth is the most cost-effective. 4,000 consumption points are just a little killing point, and Su Sheng does not want to change it. There is no way. Without money, you are not qualified to be picky. After 2 months, plus the remaining kill points from the previous upgrade of swordsmanship, there are 46 points. If this continues, I can even improve my basic swordsmanship to Xiao Cheng soon. Such an increased speed is simply unimaginable for ordinary people. Thinking of the upcoming trial of placement, Su Sheng's eyes flashed with expectation. Maybe, this is an opportunity. This morning, Su Sheng got up early for breakfast, and hurried to school. Today is the day for the placement trial of the mentality class. Su Sheng reported to the school immediately after awakening his mentality, and was added to the list of the placement trial along with 8 other students who were awakened during the summer vacation. There are dozens of people standing under the podium in the big playground of the school, and there are hundreds of large duffel bags next to them, each with a name on it. Wang Yu, how much spiritual power have you cultivated after a summer vacation? 72 o'clock, okay. Cow, I only went up by 4 points, now 71. The short and fat boys beckoned to Su's students in the distance. Su Sheng nodded and leaned in quickly. Su Sheng, are you really awakened? Wu Cheng looked surprised. Su Sheng smiled and said, luck is okay. Because he was older in his heart, Su Sheng also didn't bother to deal with his classmates, so he didn't seem very gregarious. The little fat man Wu Cheng has a pure-hearted, honest. Seeing that Su Sheng is always alone, he often comes to join Su Sheng. Over a long period of time, the two became closer friends without realizing it. As early as the beginning of the second year of high school, Wu Cheng awakened his mind, but he did not alienate him from Su Sheng. You must know that many awakened students have a high self-esteem and disdain to mix with ordinary students. Wu Cheng touched his nose and smiled slyly, great, so I might be assigned to the same class again. Wu Cheng is really happy for Su Sheng. According to the past practice, if you miss this division, even if you successfully awaken later, you can only enter the last class at the bottom of the ranking, and now both of them can make an impact on the first class. At this time, a tall boy with a plain head strode over, surrounded by a few people, and immediately attracted the attention of everyone on the playground. Fang Cheiyu is here. I really envy you, students of Zunfan Ling Yuan. It's the first time our second spirit has been admitted to a first-class spiritual institution in recent years. Su Sheng was also attracted attention, and Wu Cheng looked at Fang Cheiyu with envy in his eyes. What's wrong? Fang Cheiyu was admitted by Feng Yang Ling Yuan. Su Sheng didn't care much about other people's affairs during his holiday, and the news was blocked. Wu Cheng nodded. I heard that during the summer vacation, Fang Cheiyu, Yang Kun, and Luo Xiao were selected to follow Lin Feng to the summer camp of Feng Yang Ling Yuan. The instructor liked it and was admitted on the spot after the summer camp. Hearing this, Su Sheng couldn't help but feel a little envious. Fang Cheiyu has a great reputation in the school. Not only is he a member of the student union, he is often active in various school activities. He is also very talented. He is also one of the best in the entire second spirit, and he is a man of the second spirit. Is now admitted to the Feng Yang Ling Yuan, and for a while, she is full of vigor and in the limelight, and she has attracted many adolescent girls frequently. After a while, when it was almost 8 o'clock, the grade director Yan Sheng brought 2 men and a woman over from a distance. Everyone was attracted, and they started talking in a low voice. Su Sheng looked over, and it seems that this is the teacher of this year's psychology class. The 4 walked to the front of the student team under the rostrum, and Yan Sheng spoke, the students present have successfully awakened their minds. Before the summer vacation, Lin Feng, who came to communicate, also told you that students with minds will get extra points in the college entrance examination, up to 100 points. This is also the reason why we set up the mind mentoring class. The mind mentoring classes are all aimed at impacting first-class and even top-class spiritual academies. In addition to the content of the college entrance examination, we will also add more content, such as actual combat, discussion, and so on. Because although the college entrance examination does not take the actual test, after entering the spiritual institute, each spiritual institute has an admission assessment, which is related to the assignment of tutors. Otherwise, it is difficult to choose a good tutor based on the results of the college entrance examination. Su Sheng had doubts before, everyone's spiritual power is similar, how should the instructor be assigned after entering the spiritual academy? It turns out that there is an admission assessment. From this point of view, this placement trial is essentially the same as the admissions assessment of the Spirit Academy. The placement test we are conducting today, even if it is a small admission assessment, these 3 tutors will be the head teachers of your 3 psychology classes from now on. Let me introduce you to everyone. Yan Sheng turned his head and gestured to the 3 of them. The 3 nodded slightly and walked closer to them. Teacher Wang Jun, Teacher He Shenhan, Teacher Yan Kaihuyu, welcome everyone. The students clapped and looked at the 3 teachers curiously. The teachers in the psychology class of the 3rd year of high school are all assigned directly by the Ministry of Education, so until today, the students did not have any news about them. Wang Jun was a thin young man, and said loudly, "Hello, classmates, we will work hard together in the coming year. We will join you in today's placement trial. One is to supervise and the other is to help. You have also taken courses about fierce beasts and monsters in your literary class, but the first time you face a fierce beast, you may still have an accident. At critical moments, we will help, but you will also lose the qualification to continue to participate in the assessment. A class of 50 students will be divided into 3 classes according to the test results www.mtlnovel.com, and different rewards will be issued according to the assessment situation." When many students heard about the reward, they all became interested. Wang Jun turned around and said with a smile, "This part, let Director Yan speak." Yan Sheng nodded and accepted. The top 10 outstanding students in the trial will be rewarded with a spiritual pill. As for the top 3 students, an extra 1-star spirit skill will be awarded. What? 1-star spiritual skill, I heard it right. There are still spiritual skills, I didn't expect it. Su Sheng was also surprised. Spiritual skills are skills that can give full play to their spiritual power in a specific way. Is divided into 1 to 6 stars from low to high. Even the lowest level 1-star spirit skills are worth at least tens of thousands. Su Sheng was tempted, but unfortunately only the first 3 are available, and the difficulty is too high. If Zouting can be released, of course, there is no problem. Zouting is unfrank, and facing a general fierce beast that hasn't evolved into an frank monster, it would be random killing. But with the 3 of Wang Jun accompanying, most of them didn't have the opportunity to summon Zouting. After all, Zouting is a wanted criminal, so he can't use it. Although it can be explained, it is quite troublesome after all. I still have world and proficient swordsmanship, but it is not without a chance. Without waiting for the students to continue the discussion, Yan Sheng interrupted, "Okay, go to the side to collect your own duffel bag, which contains the locator, food and the iron weapon you applied for. After receiving it, immediately set off for the placement test. The destination of refining, our Xiang's secret realm in Tianhui City." A group of students were a little excited to find their own duffel bags nearby, and then followed a few teachers into the 2 buses parked by the playground, and went out of the school gate to the suburbs. In the eastern suburbs of Tianhui City, the vehicle drove for more than an hour before slowly stopping. "Classmates, get off the bus." Yan Sheng greeted him and took the lead to get off the bus. Su Sheng got out of the car and saw from a distance a soldier with live ammunition standing 10 steps ahead. Yan Sheng and the 3 teachers led everyone forward and walked inside. After a while, they saw a layer of silver swirling slowly in the distance. "Is this the entrance of the secret realm?" Su Sheng saw the entrance of the secret realm for the first time. A middle-aged man in the uniform of the City Defense Army came up and saw Yan Sheng with a smile on his face, as if he was an old acquaintance. "Old Yan, there are so many students this year?" "In the past, there were only 2 classes, but there are 3 classes this year, right? Your second spirit will become the first spirit just around the corner." Yan Sheng said modestly, "Old Su, you have passed." Although there are indeed many students in the psychology class this year, there is no way comparable to his first spirit. Even though he said that, the pride on Yan Sheng's old face still couldn't be hidden. In addition to the few people who awakened during the summer vacation, the number of people who awakened this year reached 142, which is 38 more than last year. It is indeed something to be happy about. Su Shengnian naturally saw it, smiled and didn't say much. After receiving a document in Yan Sheng's hand, after checking it carefully, he said, "Then you organize students to prepare to go in, I will remove the defensive enchantment." Although the Xiang's secret realm is a small secret realm, it is also the responsibility of the Tianhui City Defense Army. One is to prevent the beasts from breaking through the passage, and the other is to prevent the Xiao 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 from sneaking in. All spirits in Tianhui City who want to enter, also have to apply to the Ministry of Education, and then the Ministry of Education will approve the passage documents before the city defense forces will let them go. Su Shengnian took out a jade medal from his pocket and poured spiritual power into it. The jade card emits a dazzling light, ripples appear in the space around the entrance of the secret realm, and a circle of light appears, which is the defensive enchantment used for alert and defense. Su Shengnian placed a point on the jade card, and he saw the light curtain split into two from the middle, revealing a two-person gap. Yan Sheng ordered a group of students to line up. Seeing that the defensive barrier had been opened, he led the students to enter through the entrance. When Su Sheng passed through the secret realm passage, he only felt his body move towards a certain place in front of him with the traction. After a while, his eyes brightened, and he appeared in a bright hall. There are also two people in the uniform of the City Defense Army, playing chess on the side. Seeing Yan Sheng and his party appear, they put down their chess pieces and walked over. "Are they the students who came to the trial? Please show me the documents." Yan Sheng stepped forward to communicate with the two of them, and again took out the documents and showed them to them. The two nodded without saying more, and went back to play chess. Yan Sheng took the students out of the hall and exhorted again. Most of the terrain in the Xiang's secret realm is mountainous terrain. We can only move within a range of 20 kilometers, and there may be F-class monsters in deeper places 25 kilometers away. The locator is sent to you. After the kill is taken, a snapshot taken with the locator will automatically recognize and upload it as a kill voucher. I will not say much about other things. If you are in danger, press the locator immediately, and the three tutors and I will go to help immediately. Yan Sheng looked at the time, it's 10 o'clock, the trial time is 10 hours, and the trial is over at 8 o'clock in the afternoon. After 8 o'clock, the locator will no longer record the monsters killed. We will gather and return from here on time at 10 o'clock in the evening. Okay, let's go. Following Yan Sheng's order, a group of students rushed towards the mountains with anxiety or excitement. Wu Cheng, see you later. The trial examines personal abilities, and cooperation is not allowed, so Su Sheng said goodbye to Wu Cheng. Okay, come on, Su Sheng. The little fat man responded, and the two of them separately headed towards the mountains. Half an hour later, Su Sheng took the iron sword through the forest quickly. The secret realm of Xiang's is not small. At first, more than 100 people set off, but Su Sheng has not seen anyone anymore. Su Sheng is a little skeptical. If something goes wrong, will Yan Sheng and the other three teachers be able to arrive in time? Anyway, I still have to rely on myself. While thinking about it, suddenly a dark figure in front of me flew toward him. So fast! Su Sheng was surprised, and quickly raised the iron sword in his hand. With a knock, the black shadow collided with Su Sheng. Su Sheng held the long sword tightly and took 2 steps back to stabilize his figure, only then did he see the appearance of the dark shadow. Is as black as ink, covered with yellow markings, his face is cold and ferocious, and his right claw is like steel against Su Sheng's iron sword. Black spotted leopard. Is it such a tricky beast when it came up? Su Sheng frowned. The black spotted leopard opened its blood basin and opened its mouth, and suddenly bit at Su Sheng. Su Sheng's heart quickly flashed the black spotted leopard's message, the action is extremely fast, but the strength is slightly weak. Previously, the black spotted leopard relied on the sprint to push himself back 2 steps, but now he will not give in when he competes with such strength. Su Sheng used spiritual power, and his right hand suddenly swung out to force the black-spotted leopard back. The black-spotted leopard bit into the air in front of Su Sheng, and once shot down the black-spotted leopard, there was no fight. He retreated a few steps and walked around Su Sheng slowly, trying to find the flaw. Su Sheng felt his heart beating faster than usual, and unexpectedly a sense of excitement arose inexplicably. Isn't he still a fighting frenzy? Su Sheng clenched his long sword and posed a good posture. The proficient swordsmanship would never reveal any flaws in the face of this fierce beast. The black-spotted leopard is observing Su Sheng, and Su Sheng is also watching the black-spotted leopard. It didn't take long for the black-spotted leopard to become a little impatient, grinning. Yu reading www.yunsha.com looked a little anxious. The muffled hum continued, and finally couldn't help but pounce on Su Sheng again. Only this time, Su Sheng was prepared, waiting for the black-spotted leopard to jump in front of him, and pierced the Black Panther's chest with a sharp sword. Proficient in swordsmanship, where to stab? The black-spotted leopard was shocked, kicked, and jumped aside. Su Sheng's heart moved, and the golden light in his eyes floated, and the time acceleration had already started. The next moment, the long sword in his hand was retracted first and then out. The black-spotted leopard thought he had escaped a sword, but he didn't know that the cold light flashed, and he had just landed, and there was a sharp pain on the right side of his body. The black-spotted leopard turned his head to look, and found to his horror that the iron sword that had just escaped had penetrated his body sturdily. Before he could think about it, Su Sheng pulled hard, and the iron sword covered with spiritual power cut a foot-long wound directly along the black-spotted leopard's waist. Wow! The black-spotted leopard screamed and fell on the ground and couldn't stand up. The internal organs flowed from the wound, wailing again and again, and gradually disappeared after a twitch. Su Sheng did not go to see the corpse, but turned on the system. Killing point increased from 46 to 49, a full increase of 3 points. Does a black-spotted leopard 3 kill points? Su Sheng was very excited. In this case, with this action alone, he might accumulate the killing points to the number required for Xiao Cheng's swordsmanship. A few steps to the corpse, Su Sheng took out the locator and took a snapshot of the black-spotted leopard. Although the carcass of the black-spotted leopard was deliberately carried, it had much higher energy than the black-armored saber-tooth, and it could also change Su Shui's taste. But with such a big corpse, there is nothing he can do about it. Wiped the iron sword, Su Sheng seized the time to continue walking deep.